Hi everyone, it's Sara Black Spiker here, and it is a glorious Friday here in New York. And yes, it's Friday. If you saw my recent post, then you know that I've been on this quantum timing for the past couple of days when everything was upside down. So I'm back. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Mystique room. I've been receiving beautiful questions, and one of them was very intriguing, like what exactly it is. And I wanted to bring this up, and I wanted to share with you not just what it is, but why has it been created and why right now, and especially who is this for. Where do I begin? For quite some time I've had this feeling that was brewing on the inside, looking around and looking at those magnificent women in particular. Yes, Mystique Room gets to be for women only, even though I do work with some amazing men. This one gets to be exclusive for women. And I've been looking at women that I've been admiring the most, whom I had so much respect for, and who are changing the world by just being there, by just their sheer presence, doing the work that they were called to do. They're holding the space for this big vision of the world that we get to create. They're holding the energy of love for people around us, and for their clients, and for their clients' families and communities, and it's like a ripple effect. And there's so much for them to hold. They are nourishing, they are energizing, they are inspiring, they're empowering. And I started to notice over the past couple of years in particular, so many of them, it almost felt like their wings were broken. It almost felt like they themselves burnt out in all this giving. They themselves had to scale down and scale back and tone down and step down from, I don't want to necessarily use the word pedestal, but seriously from the platforms that they were using, because it became too much. It became so much bigger, and it was consuming them, and some of them simply imploded. They could not hold this anymore. As I was watching that, it really brought up all the feels and all the memories of my own journey of literally moving them out. You know, one of the expressions that is so dear to me is like, when I move, mountains follow. And those are the women that I was referring to, and those are the women that are so magnificent, and I feel so magnified too. And yet, when I was looking at those fallen angels, so to speak, having to mend their own wings so they could go up and fly again and uplift everybody else, I was like, who is taking care of them? Who is holding them? Who is holding the space for them? Way beyond just the typical business aspect, way beyond the most conventional life coaching or spiritual realm, so to speak, their spiritual development. In addition to that, we are now living in a world where women that we care so much for, it's no longer enough to give, 5-step formula and some tactical advice. It's no longer to just give some, 3 steps or 5 steps or 5-layer process for this and this and this and this, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whether it's for family. We're living in a world where all of this is deeply integrated, where the lines between the business and personal have been blurred. They've been for quite some time, but never to this extent. And we're living in the world where, in order for us to give to those who we care so much for, we also require much more for ourselves. And so I really felt called to create a space that combines ancient wisdom, holistic practices with the tactical and strategic, and it combines it on every single level for our physical bodies, for our mental stamina and capacities and endurance, for, you know, energetic level, for our personal lives. Many of us here are parents, we are moms, we have commitments to our homes, we are devoted in our relationships, in our marriages. So it's just, it all of a sudden it becomes so much that is required from us to just be, so much that is required for us to do. And when we all of a sudden feel called to do more, it's not about just doing more, it's becoming more. And this requires a huge amount of space to be held for us, so we can in return hold all this space for others. So as all of those were coming through, it's like this container calls for something so magnificent that I have never done before. And there was something else too. For the first time, as a strategist, somebody who thrives on strategy, I relinquished the control of having to have everything figured out, and it gets to be, like the name it says, Mystique, because it gets to be co-created, it gets to be intuitive, it gets to be multidimensional, and it gets to be all-inclusive, where we get to play on a personal level, we get to create as a community, we get to support each other, we get to grow with each other, we get to bring in experts in different areas that oftentimes get missed. And yet those are those areas, whether it's our personal life, whether it's our own being, whether it's relationships with our spouses, with our parents, with our kids, with our clients, you know, but the energies are lodged. So how can we unlodge those stale energies? How we can uplift and shake everything up? So this is just one small aspect of what this Mystique room gets to be. The other part of it is also, like I said, you know, having to have everything figured out. All I know is that at this very moment, I feel called to do 3 annual gatherings. How exactly they get to look like, where exactly they're going to happen, we will play it by the ear. I also feel called to create something where we get to, like I said, participate in workshops. So it's not just learning and listening and taking it all in, it gets to be applied and it gets to be fun. We're thinking about intensives, we're thinking about, you know, networking. Everything and all those things are on the table. What exactly will be called to forth, we'll play it by the ear when we have the participants in there, when we see exactly what is needed, and when we see exactly not just what is needed, but what is desired and what is required. So even as you can see right now, my voice is trembling a little bit, because I was like, can I really say that? Can I say that, you know, there's something that I'm putting out there that's not being defined? I was like, yes, absolutely. Absolutely, it gets to be this way, because you know why? This time, this particular container, this particular sacred space is attracting and magnetizing those of us who are tapped into the realms. We are playing in the astral realm, where the technical, the physical, the tangible elements and this intellectual need to know all the answers, it's just irrelevant. It's playing in the realm when we feel called towards, where we know that exactly what is required will surface, and all the answers and all the solutions and all the resources and all the support will come with it at the right time. And it was quite interesting, I have to be honest, when, as like I said, when I was putting this on a paper, I could feel my intellectual mind come up in this little voice like, that can't be done that way. You need to have clearly defined client avatar, you need to have clearly defined structure, you need to have clearly defined offer, you need to have clearly defined benefits and features and blah 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 blah. I was like, well, not this is a Mystique room. We play by different rules here. We march by the different drummers, so to speak, and we play in different realms here. And if a person gets hung up on the technicalities, then Mystique room is not even a place for them to be, because the people that we're calling in and the people who feel magnetized to step up and step in and step through those doors, like I said, are the ones who are Mystique women themselves. Those are women who, on paper, when we look around them, they have created everything that's possible to create. Those are the women we look up to. Those are the women who, when you look at them, it's like they have love, they have money, they have success, they have power, they create impact. And you know what? Those are the women who are just getting started. And those are also the women who now require more. Like I said, not just require more to be supported in order to hold so much more, to become so much more, to create so much more, but they also require something different. They require a space that gets to be as mystic as they are. They require the space that gets to be sacred, that gets to be safe, that gets to be not just fully supportive of them, but also holds them accountable at the highest level of accountability, making sure that the actions they're taking are in alignment with their highest level of light. That they get to play and stay in the integrity of the ultimate calling that they are answering. And it gets to be ever-evolving journey, and it gets to be multidimensional, and it gets to be created with passion, and it gets to be created with purpose, and it gets to be veiled in this mystique. And that gets to be a fun experience. At one point, I think what was streaming through was literally the phrase that it gets to be a soothing hug to mend those broken wings of those fallen angels that I was describing earlier, who inspired this Mystique room in the first place. It gets to be a sharpening tool to sharpen the edges of those of us who have been, rubbed for way too long, and we need to find those edges again. It gets to be a launch pad. It gets to be an accelerator. It gets to feel like a sisterhood. It gets to feel like a circle of the closest confidants. Because what we're discussing here, like I said, it's not just business. It's life, and it's layers that go beyond what we would even feel comfortable disclosing to our friends. But it's the layers where our energies are lodged. It's the layers that are literally giving our power away. It's the layers that are weighing us down physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We get to release all of those, and along the way we get to remember who we truly are, and we get to reignite those sparkles in the eyes, and we get to empower each other. So not only we get to now create our deepest desires in our own lives within, in our relationships, we get to create it in our businesses, with our businesses. And it goes way beyond, the typical 5-year or 10-year plan. We are literally shifting and changing the trajectory rapidly. We're literally quantum leaping time and space. And I mean, it's so vast that I'm being challenged even conveying all of that. It's just this feeling of expansiveness, of limitlessness, this feeling that continuously expands, just like the universe continues to expand. And it's this space that can support each and every one of the members. And one more thing that I wanted to add on, a little bit more technical aspect of it. The membership is by invitation only. And the reason why this is so, because as a sacred space, we need to protect the integrity of it. So it is really important that the women who feel called to enter this space not just are compatible, but what is the word I'm trying to find here? Making sure that we are a right fit on multiple layers, in multiple ways. And when you know what it is, when you go on a date with somebody, it might be a blind date, and you're sitting across the table and like, just not feeling this one, dude. This is what it is. We're looking and we're calling in and we're bringing in and attracting, and women who are magnetized to us and who feel called to enter this space are the ones that when we establish this connection, it feels electrifying, it feels magnifying, you can feel it. And this is the woman, that mystique woman. You feel her when she walks in the space. You feel her before you see her. When she speaks, you feel the vibration of her voice. When she sets an intention, you can feel the intensity of it. And like I said earlier, when she moves, mountains follow. This is her. And she is magnetized to this space because she knows that there is so much more available to her. And she is ready to play in a way that is different, in a way that creates so much more for her to become. And it's also in a space that allows her not just to become more, but to be more of herself. All of it. And I mean all of it. And it goes back to the conversation of all these layers that not only were put on us through, programming and different memories and perceptions and beliefs and different stories, but also the layers of ourselves that now all of a sudden we're trying to shield and we're trying to hide and we're trying to pretend they're not there and stuck them aside and sweep underneath the rug. Layers that we try to overcompensate for. There's so much more that I can just talk on this particular topic. As somebody who has been there myself, and I still am in many ways there myself when I'm trying to cover the wound by overcompensating and giving more in order to make up for the lack of this worthiness, or giving away something in order to be approved or accepted. You know the game. We mastered this game. Or it might be the delicate dance between opening our hearts to somebody and they come in and then they break it again and they leave. And this time, instead of building up a wall, maybe this time we get to see the new space that was created for something else to come in and feel it now. Because the reason why it shattered maybe so it could expand. This woman, she knows the difference. Maybe this is a woman who, when she closes her eyes at night, she fantasizes about those electrifying kisses, about toe-curling orgasms. Then she turns around and is like, I love you, puts her phone down and goes to sleep unsatisfied, untouched again, while the soulmate is literally right next to her, but there's this connection, the fire is gone. And the reason and the way how they compensate is, oh well, but we have this deep connection, we're soulmates. Yeah, but she's craving something more. Maybe this is a woman who has a visceral reaction to just the thought of what the future could become, and it's giving her this insane drive to do so much more for her kids, for the world, and yet it feels like she's on a hamster wheel because will it ever be enough? Could she possibly do enough? Maybe that's a woman who is just so exhausted, so tired from the weight of responsibility that she's carrying, the weight of reputation in many ways, because she finally created this empire she's been hustling for so long, only to figure out it just became a machine that the harder she works, the more it requires from her. And there's just no end in sight. And she just can't stop because there's so many people who are relying on her. Just like the one who might be standing on the stage, proverbial stage at this time. And there's thousands of eyes on her. There's a standing ovation. People are soaking in every single word. And she musters a smile, but it doesn't go all the way up because it's just masking this agony of her going against her own integrity again, doing something that she's way outgrown again because she feels she owes it to the audience, that she owes it to the team who's been there every step of the way, because she feels like she's not worthy. Or maybe worthy would not be the space. Maybe she's just afraid of all the mess that will create if she chooses to do something else, something that she's actually called for, because the stage is already outgrown. You know, in many ways, like I said, I feel this woman and I can see her, because in many ways I was her, in many ways I am her. And in many ways, with this divine knowing, we are connected. So when it comes to the you know, in such an interesting conversation not too long ago, a person asked, they said, I have 25,000 amazing people in my network. I would love to connect you to somebody. Who needs you? Who do you work with? And I gave them the answer. And they kept coming back with more specifics. They kept coming back with more defined answers, looking for more defined answers, to the point when it would literally fit in one of those molds of ideal client avatar. And it made me realize that in many ways, that is the conventional way of doing business. You take a piece of paper, you write down the ideal client avatar. You write down who this person is, where do they live, how old are they, how many kids do they have, what kind of a car they drive, what kind of peaches do they like, where do they shop, what do they do, what drives them, what terrifies them, what they're afraid of. And then you tailor your marketing in order to speak to that particular person. And I was sitting there, I was like, yeah, you know what, Mystique Room is not that. My work is not that. We get to transcend this realm, and we get to transcend and transform this way of being, and we get to play in the realm where our souls connect and where our souls bring us together. Just like my little ones literally arranged that everything aligned for me to come to the States and for my husband to be in New York at this particular time, for us to both be online, for us to click just the right buttons so that we could meet and then they could come here years later. What a divine orchestration. And this is what the Mystique Room is. It's a divine orchestration where personally I relinquish the control to run and make decisions based on quantitative data. What a big word, I can barely roll it off my tongue here. But this time we get to play in this mystique, we get to play in those feelings, and we get to feel into it. And we get to trust our souls and we get to arrange those little rendezvous with our souls. And I know with all my being that as I'm speaking this out right now, it's exactly what this particular woman needs to hear. And I know she feels it, and I know that she knows exactly what she's being called forth, and I know she knows exactly what she needs to do, and I know she has enough knowledge and understanding and self-love that she will honor the calling of her heart, the calling of her soul, even though if it might not make sense on the intellectual level. Because this is how we get to play now. We get to play a much bigger game. We get to play much higher level. We get to play in a much greater sandbox, so to speak. And we get to tap into things and experience things and call in things that they don't make sense per se, but they nourish us. They fire us up. They light up our soul. And this is what this Mystique room gets to be. And this is how my work in general is shaping out to be. Even the Intentional Impact Program, Global Experience that was birthed last year, it evolved. It evolved way beyond the typical business consulting and coaching practice and the mindset coaching that it was kind of laid out initially. It evolved. My VIP days have evolved from strictly strategic business strategy part to mental, emotional, energetic, where we elevate the ideas, and participants, they get to feel the vibration of their new plans. They get to imprint those plans. They know exactly what to do on a soul level. Like I said, on the mind level, it might not make sense, but this is not how we play anymore. We play when we're called with our heart. We get to create. We get to experience. We get to enjoy. We get to be fulfilled. We get to love and be loved. We get to be a light. And we get to illuminate each other. And we get to continuously blaze our trails and make paths and lead the way. And we get to go first in any one of those experiences too. And when something is like, oh, this has never been done before, exactly. Because we get to go first. We're Aquarian leaders, and we get to not just go first, but then we get to share about these experiences. And we get to share about those lessons that we have learned. And we get to share and uplift and stretch out our arms and reach down to pull others up. And we get to be pulled up by those who are surrounding us, not just physically, but in other realms. We're not playing just in 3D anymore. This is 4D, this is 5D. And it gets to feel good, and it gets to feel nourishing, and it gets to feel expansive, and it gets to feel limitless, and it gets to be just perfect. I don't know if you can feel it, but I just got goosebumps all over my body here. And this gets to be the Mystique room. I don't have any other words to use here because, like I said, it just gets to be felt and it just gets to be experienced. And that's it. What I will do, however, if this calls to you and if your soul is guiding you to enter, to explore, to feel into it, I will put the link below this video so you can do just that you can look around and feel for yourself. And I also will extend this invitation and initiate the connection that if this is something that you feel called to, let's have a conversation, reach out, and we can continue this dialogue, we can deepen this dialogue, and we can see what we get to co-create together. How does it get to look like? How do we get to play? What toys do we get to bring? What toys do we get to exchange? You know, because why not? We totally get to do that. And one of the reasons we get to do it, because we are freaking leaders. We are creating a whole new world, and we get to create it in a way that has never been done before. And we get to create it in a way that is nourishing, that is filled with love, and it's heartfelt. And we get to create it in a way that is good. It's good. It gets to be good. And right now, we get to feel all the feels, and we get to acknowledge that the way we have been supported thus far, and the way we have supported each other, and the way we have supported our clients and those around us, it gets to be evolved. And it gets to be done in a way that is much more aligned with us. And it gets to be much more integrated. And it gets to be complex. And it gets to be mystique. And we don't require all the answers on the paper, because we get to trust that exactly what we need at the exact moment we desire and require it, it is showing up, because it always has, and it always will, and it's just perfect that way. So I want to say thank you for sharing this space and time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Sending you love.